Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you a technique involving shiny photo paper. We're actually going to use the back side, and I have Kirkland brand, which you just saw there. To adhere the paper to my Lazy Susan, I'm going to use these wonderful little sheets by Sizzix. They're a sticky grid sheet. They're sticky on both sides, and just like a post-it note. But sticky both sides. So what I'm showing you is that I'm using the matte side, not the shiny side of the photo paper. And the matte side is a non-porous surface, so it's going to take the alcohol inks much better. I'm using a blending tool by Tim Holtz, as well as the little blending cloths. These are specifically made for alcohol ink. And the cloths, which I had a bit of a time getting out of the packaging, just tap nicely onto that blending tool. And I'm going to use some blending solution. Most of you are probably familiar with this, Mermaid alcohol ink. I'm using Poppy Field, which is a nice red, yellow dandelion. You could use any colors you want, of course, and you don't have to use these specific ones. Purple eggplant. And ultimately I'm going to bring a green botanical in, but I don't show that right now because I didn't know at the time that I was going to use it. So very simple, really simple. I'm going to take really random drops. I'm using eggplant first. Put a little bit on my blending tool. I take some Poppy Field. I put that on my blending tool. Just random. You could put 1 dot or 20. It really doesn't matter. And you can see there's a little drop of it on my paper. Doesn't matter. Really all we're going to do here, after I put on a little bit of blending solution, I'm pointing out that drop, but it won't be seen very quickly. And really what I'm doing is just tamping. I'm tamping and dragging. I'm dragging and tamping. You can do whatever you want. Really, this is just a process of getting some color down onto that nice 8.5 by 11 matte side of the sheet of photo paper by Kirkland. So really boring to watch actually, but at least you get an idea of my method, and you'll see as we go along here that really we're going to be repeating a lot. And I could take you on a very fast tour of this, and you could speed it up for yourself if you don't want to hear me talk. But I just really want to point out that there is no right or wrong way. I have made images that appear to be fields of flowers. Generally that's not intentional on my part. I did try to set out to get something going looking like flowers. This, by the way, is the mermaid. So you can see I don't put on new cloth or anything like that. The ink dries very quickly. It's a solvent base, and there's more of the eggplant, that purple. And so I have good music going. You can't hear it because I'm doing a narration over top, and I've removed all of the sound, but I just enjoy myself and really try to not think too hard about what's going on. I'm really just trying to get some different colors down, sort of see what happens with the patterns. I might leave a little bit of white space. In fact, on this one you'll see at the end, and I actually piece this this one into 4 different cards, but you'll see that there's areas intentionally that were left with a bit more white. White is light, and so I wanted it to appear in some of the pieces of this image as though there was light coming through. And I just opened up the dandelion. It is a good idea if you get in the habit of putting your lids back on your alcohol inks. They can actually last, and that's botanical, that's the green. They can last quite a while with the lids open. I just get in the habit of closing them. The one that you really should close right away is the blending solution, because like isopropyl alcohol, they're not exactly the same, but like that, they're both solvent based, and so they tend to evaporate fairly quickly. And blending solution's not cheap, so I try to be very careful and not have it just just evaporate into the air. I try to keep the lid on when I'm not using it. So I'm just moving that Lazy Susan around. Again, I've added the yellow and green now, so you can see that because this alcohol ink dries so quickly, the colors that I've already put down are pretty much staying intact. There's going to be some blending of color, there's no doubt about that. The blending solution actually is an extender, and so what that does is it extends the period of time that it takes for the ink to dry. And it also reactivates or activates the ink. So it activates the ink that I put on the blending tool, and it's going to reactivate, to a degree, the ink that's already down on this matte side of this photo paper. I'm just showing you the cloth again. It's, yeah, a little bit more. I just felt like green. I just felt it needed a bit more green. Of course, the green is going to mix with the yellow, and it's going to mix with the red. And so there's all kinds of colors that are going to come out of this. Just really beautiful mixes. And I'm also looking, there we go with eggplant again. I'm also looking to achieve some sense of depth, not just light. And so light tends to look like things are coming forward. Dark tends to make them recede or go back. And so I like to have a good combination of both of them. And I just put a little bit more blending solution on my blending tool because that will, as I said before, have the effect of reactivating some of the ink that's on the blending tool and reactivating some of the ink that is already on the piece of paper. So really, this doesn't take very long. The big question is always, do you put on more and when do you stop? I've never been able to answer that question. It is completely an individual thing. There is no right or wrong answer. It really is up to you to decide as the person doing the work whether you like what you see and whether you feel that you should carry on. And if you don't feel like you're getting the results that you're looking for, sometimes it's worth just spinning it around and looking at it, which is what I'm doing here. And sometimes I take a picture of it and look at it from various different angles as well. Sometimes I just walk away and come back the next day. Now what I'm doing, even though these inks dry very quickly, is I've just taken a craft dryer, which is really just a little portable hair dryer, and just giving it a quick once over just to make sure that those inks are in fact dry. Because they're a little bit shiny when they dry in some areas, and so it's hard to tell sometimes if they've actually fully dried. And as you can see, I've only been putting on several drops at a time, so we're not talking about a lot of liquid here. And the alcohol ink evaporates quickly, as does that blending solution. So in fact, I can tell just by looking at this that the brush, the blending tool rather, is sticking a bit. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that it is, again, reactivating some of the ink that's already gone down onto the page. And so when I pull the tool back up after I press it down on the page, it's having the effect of pulling some of the ink up with it. Again, not a bad thing. The other neat thing about this tool, as you can see, is these dots are forming. And that's just a natural progression with this tool. Although, of course, if I streak the tool, if I pushed it or pulled it across the page, it's going to look a lot different. But if I dabble it this way, I'm getting the effect of these dots. So here are a couple of the cards. There's actually 4 cards that were made using this background. And the first one involves coffee, which is one of my favorite things. I'm not going to walk you through all of them. But the second one includes some butterflies, and it's really an inspirational card. There's a Hello Spring card and a thank you card. And if you have any questions about the dimensions or about other products that I've used, you're more than welcome to ask, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks for joining me.